Hello, I'm Eric Fallon, and I will be giving a presentation on soccer. That will be my teaching lesson plan focus, and specifically creating space in attack. And is so for the warm. Hello, I'm Eric Fallon, and I will be giving a presentation on soccer. That will be my teaching lesson plan focus, and specifically creating space in attack. And is the tactical problem, and one touch passing will facilitate overcoming this tactical problem. So for the warm up, the equipment that we will need will be 36 cones and 12 balls. So teams will be split into 12 teams of two, and one person will line up on the sideline, and one person will be in more deep to the court. So basically, to sum it up, one touch you're going to one touch pass the ball, and then you're going to swap positions with your partner. So once you've successfully one touch pass the ball between you and your partner, you will swap positions and be a little bit farther apart. So we'll dive more specifically into it here. So for the warm up, so basically this warm up will be one touch pass between partners. So the class will be split into 12 teams of two, like I said. Once both players make a successful one-touch pass, they will swap positions, either jogging or running. So once the swapped player that is farthest from the sideline has passed the ball back to the X1 player, so the players are X1 and X2. So a one-touch pass, and you can see in step 1 and step 2 there over on the right, that a one-touch pass will be made between both players. So you're just hitting the ball once with the side of your foot, and once you successfully make that one-touch pass between between the two players, you're going to swap positions, and the player that is swapped, that's farthest away from the bleachers, is not going to be at the player at their previous partner's position. They're going to be a little bit further. So there are going to be three cones that are set up. You can see the cones are the little things by X2 in step 1 there. So that little symbol designates a cone. And they are going to make successive one-touch passes, and then they're going to swap positions again. So the cones are going to be split 5 feet apart. The first cone distance will be 10 feet, then 15 feet, and then the third cone distance will be 20 feet away from each other. So yeah, so you make one successive one-touch rally, and the players will swap positions, and this will facilitate one-touch passing at 3 different distances, and it will get players to see how one-touch passing is fast and efficient, but it'll also help them practice one-touch passing as well, because it's a little bit difficult for people that haven't used their feet for many sports. So, yep, once they complete the passes at the 3 allotted distances, and there's a minute or 2 to spare. I was planning on doing a relay race, so the players could just get a little bit competitive and get their hearts pumping and get things going. So, okay, so for game 1 is going to be a modified game to kind of give the offense a little bit of an advantage, and it's going to outline how one-touch passing is going to make the players better able to attack, and it's going to create some space, and it's going to be efficient. So that's kind of going to be outlined in the game. So it's a modified game where the offense consists of 4 players and the defense consists of 3 players, and the offense will have 1 player to pass in the ball, and then they can go in bounds and be an offensive player. So to start, the equipment that will be needed will be 3 goals, tape for passing locations for the offense, and then 3 regular size soccer balls. So it's 4-on-3 with the offense having an advantage, and this kind of allows people who aren't as skilled in soccer to have a little bit more time on their hands and have a little bit more space. So this game will be a modified game where the defense will have no goalie. The offense can only shoot and score if they've made 2 successful one-touch passes. So one of the one-touch passes must be up court, and then the other can be wherever. It can be horizontally, it can be back court, or it can be up court. And this will enforce one-touch passing as a vital skill for creating space and scoring. And the reason for such a an advantage in offense and defense, like I said before, is that soccer is a high skill cap game. So people who haven't used their feet a lot for other sports, it's going to be a bit difficult to make one touch passes. But I'll just encourage everyone to try their best. So in order to get open, yeah, okay, I already touched on that. All right, so the offense can shoot and score again if they've only made 2 one-touch passes. And once the offense scores, then one person will stay on offense and the rest of the students will switch. So offense to defense, defense to offense. Also, there will be 3 extra players with this team format because I wanted to split the game into 3 courts, and there are 7 players per court, so there's 3 players that are unaccounted for if there's a total of 24 students. And the 3 players, the substitution players, will rotate in for the person who scored. So also, if no one scores within 2 minutes, the offense and defense will switch anyway. Yeah, so as you can see, the offensive players in the picture are highlighted in pink, and the defensive players are just marked XD. So the player will pass it in, and two successful one-touch passes have to be made. They don't have to be consecutive passes, so they don't have to be in a row. And then the offense can score, and that is the first modified game. So now, notes, I will just be telling students to ask themselves to move into space and when is the best time to pass to their teammates. Soccer is a slower game, so I will encourage students not to rush, and then I'll also encourage students to communicate as much as possible. So safety concerns are that students could run into each other, yeah, that's mostly the main concern. And also that soccer is a game that that I suspect a lesser proportion of students in the classroom will have played. So just enforcing and reassuring students that they can go as slow as they want and to take their time, I think will help things go smoothly and remove any safety concerns there. Okay, so for the practice task, this practice task is going to be the switches for nets. So for passing areas, so there will be and the students need it because the will regulate split into 4. So for the practice task 1 of the game, and the only practice task, the equipment will be 4 nets and then tape for the pass-in areas. You'll need 4 nets because the court is going to be split into 4, and on each court there's going to be 4 offensive players and 2 defensive players. A note is that there will only be 1 offensive player that doesn't play, and they kind of just pass the ball in. So the pass-in player only passes the ball in. They don't attack with the rest of the offense. So the offense is going to be in a triangular formation with an apex player farthest away from the goal and the 2 base players closest to the goal. And the apex player is going to get the ball from the pass-in player, and they're going to pass it to one of the base players. The base players have to one-touch pass the ball back to the apex player, and then after that successful one-touch pass is made, then the apex player can either shoot it or pass it to the base players who can move all around and try to score. After the one-touch pass is made, it will be encouraged to make more one-touch passes just to get open, and because it's efficient and fast. And the cues for this game will be scan, pass, move. So you want to scan. If you're the apex player, for instance, you're going to want to scan all around and see which base player is open. Then you're going to want to pass it to that open base player, and you're going to want to move. So once you pass the ball, you're going to want to move into open space and open area. So there are different options readily available for the base players. So the apex player can only move horizontally, but the base players can move all around and go wherever they want. After 2 minutes, if the offense doesn't score, then the offense and defense will switch, and each court will have its own governance, and they can designate who's going to be on offense and who's going to stay on, or who's going to stay on offense, and then who's going to switch over to the defense. Okay, so for the practice task is 1. Okay, so to start out with game 2, the last game, the equipment that we'll need will be 4 nets and 2 balls. So the conditions or modified rules will be teams of 5, and this will allow students to have ample time with the ball to develop all the ball skills. And there will be 4 teams of 5. So this will be a regular game with hot defense, and there's some modified rules that come along with this game. The throw-ins that occur in regular soccer will be replaced with pass-ins, and this will just help students further accurately. This will help students develop how to accurately strike the ball with the side of their foot, and there will also be no offsides. So the reason why there's no offsides is that offsides needs to be carefully enforced by officials, and that it can be confusing for new soccer players or players that are new to the game. So there will be no offsides in this game. And then one player on each team will act as a pseudo goalie, so they can use their hands or their arms or whatever they need while they're in the goalie box. And the description for this game is pretty simple. You can't go in the goalie box, and you have to score in order to win. The pseudo goalie again can use his or her hands in the goalie box whenever necessary. If one team knocks the ball out, it's the other team's pass in with their feet, and if it's out at the baseline by the goalie, then the other team gets the ball at the corner. But if the goalie gets it, then they can just throw or pass it or whatever they want to do. So there will also be one substitute for this game for each team. Each team will have one substitute, and if a player on their team scores, then they will be subbed in for their team's substitute. And then with all of these games, I forgot to note this, but for all of these games, the practice task game 1 and game 2, um, each team will be made with that random number generator app that Andy has on his phone. So each time you will get a new team, and this is just kind of to make things easy and to save time as far as assigning teams goes. So safety rules will be physical contact, I think, just because there will be 2 games going on and there will be 5 players per team, so there can be physical contact that's involved, but some is okay. And I'll basically just be watching closely to the 2 games for foul play, and we'll just make sure that everybody's taking their time and everybody's having fun with the game, making sure that no one is getting too rowdy or anything like that. And then a rule that I have is that if someone falls on the ground, then the players around them just kind of have to just back away, even if the game's going on. Because soccer can get a little crazy with if beginners are just kind of kicking all around the ball and kicking people's ankles and things like that. So if someone falls, just get away from them and let them get up. And then we'll also go into the closure as well. So I want to talk about one-touch passing as the closure, and I will basically just kind of talk about benefits of one-touch passing versus the risks or pitfalls to one-touch passing. So benefits are that it's extremely efficient and it allows you to create a lot of space in the game, and hopefully the students will have noticed that during all of the games that I played, and hopefully the games that I've come up with kind of enforce one-touch passing and allow them to recognize all of the advantages to it. But there also is the risk of one-touch passing, especially with beginning soccer players, and that is that it's pretty tough to do, and it can be really inaccurate if you're a beginner, just because the ball is screaming in at you hot, and if you don't get on the ball right with the side of your foot, then you're not really gonna it's not going to be accurate at all. So I'll also just reiterate the cues: scan, pass, move, and ask the students if they thought any of the cues were helpful, and if the activities were consecutive enough to allow students to further assess one-touch passing and creating space on offense, and just and creating space in general in the game of soccer. Because in a lot of games you just want to move forward, but in soccer often you want to pass the ball back and you want to pass the ball to the side, and there's usually a big field for soccer, so you want to take the game slow, and there's no coach telling you a play or anything that you have to do really. It's kind of all up to the player's creativity and patience and communication. And then I'll also encourage people to say something that's encouraging towards other students and ask them if there's anything that I could have improved upon in the lesson for next time. And that is my presentation. Thanks so much.